Hey there, movie fans. It is time for a brand new Rank and File. I'm your host, Scott Movie Mantz. Now, before we get started, I wanted to ask again to please join the movement for civil rights. Please join the movement for equality. Please join the movement for change. Go to blacklivesmatter.com. Find out how you can be a part of the movement, and if possible, make a donation. Thank you. So right now it is time to rank the Iron Man movies. Now I know what you're thinking, there's only 3 of them. Well, if you know the MCU, that is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, then you know that Iron Man was in a whole lot of other movies. Robert Downey Jr., talk about the role he was born to play. He is so great as Tony Stark that no matter what movie he is in, the movie is good or great. And all of the films on this list are good or great. There's not a dud in the bunch. So let's get right to it with number 9 on the list, Avengers Age of Ultron. Directed by Joss Whedon, came out on May 1st, 2015. It cost about $250 million to make. Domestic gross is $459 million. Worldwide gross is $1.4 billion. These movies make a whole lot of money. Rotten Tomatoes score is 75%. Age of Ultron is a fun movie. It's a great action movie. But compared to the first Avengers, which felt really fresh and different, Age of Ultron just feels like it's an action movie going through the motions. The visual effects are fantastic, and of course the ensemble, the acting ensemble, is what makes this movie really great. Moving up to number 8 on the list is Iron Man 2, directed by Jon Favreau. Release date is May 7th, 2010. Cost $200 million to make. Domestic gross is $312 million. Worldwide gross, $624 million. Rotten Tomatoes score is 73%. I like Iron Man 2. It's fine. It feels bloated, just like Avengers Age of Ultron feels bloated. And I love Mickey Rourke, who was hot off his Oscar nomination for The Wrestler when he was cast to play Whiplash in Iron Man 2. Don Cheadle, first appearance here as Rhodey Rhodes, and first appearance of Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow. So Iron Man 2, it does have its merits. Moving up to number 7 is Iron Man 3, directed by Shane Black. Came out May 3rd, 2013. Cost is $200 million. Domestic gross is $409 million. Worldwide gross is $1.2 billion. Rotten Tomatoes score is 79%. This is the highest grossing movie in the Iron Man series, and I really like this movie a lot. It felt different from the first 2 films. Director Shane Black really deconstructed the series a little bit because, you know what? The Iron Man suit doesn't always work. And it was more about Tony Stark than it was about Iron Man because for about an hour of the film, we never even see Iron Man because Tony Stark is dealing with the post-traumatic stress disorder after his experiences from the Avengers movie. Really sophisticated for a superhero film to go that way, but I loved that this movie did. I loved the surprise twist with the Mandarin, played by Sir Ben Kingsley. A lot of people had a problem with that, but I loved the twist. I loved the surprise. I thought it really worked. And I also loved seeing Pepper Potts suit up in the Iron Man suit. Iron Man 3 is an underrated film. I think it's a really a great movie. Moving up to number 6 on the list is The Avengers, directed by Joss Whedon. Release date May 4th, 2012. Cost is $220 million. Domestic gross $623 million. Worldwide gross is $895 million. Rotten Tomatoes score is 92%. Okay, this movie was a game changer. This is the movie that brings together all the characters that were set up individually in their own films, and we finally get to see them all together to complete Phase 1 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think this movie is really fun. It delivers on what it promised. It gave the fans what they wanted. Some of the action scenes are a little redundant, and the last hour of the film was like one non-stop action scene, and I did get a little bit of battle fatigue, and there were times when this last hour felt like a Transformers movie. Moving up to number 5 is Avengers Infinity War, directed by Anthony Russo and Joe Russo. Came out on April 27, 2018. Costs $321 million. Wow. Domestic gross, $678 million. That's just domestic, because worldwide, we're looking at more than $2 billion for Avengers Infinity War. Rotten Tomatoes score is 85%. This film is the beginning of the end of the first 3 phases of the MCU. And the movie feels like it's a whole lot of setup. The piece de resistance, that I'd like to call it, about Avengers Infinity War has to be Josh Brolin as Thanos. Now, here was a villain to be reckoned with. Here was a villain to be feared. And here was a villain to be respected and even empathized with. And you really felt towards the end of this movie that some of these characters were really goners and they might not be back. Robert Downey Jr. is terrific in this film, and that last scene with Peter Parker before Peter Parker disappears, really just got you in the heart. Swinging into number 4 is Spider-Man Homecoming, directed by John Watts. Release date July 7th, 2017. Cost is $175 million. Domestic gross, $334 million. Worldwide gross is $880 million. Rotten Tomatoes score is 92%. Homecoming really gave Spider-Man the reboot it needed after the Andrew Garfield movies just weren't that great. They were okay, but they weren't great. Tom Holland was a great Peter Parker. He gave Spider-Man, it made him more like a wise ass, which is what he should have been. John Watts made the film feel fresh and different by making it feel like an 80s teen comedy. Michael Keaton as Vulture was really superb. Awesome plot twist towards the end. Great surprise with Vulture. Don't want to spoil it here. But what I loved the most about Spider-Man Homecoming was the paternal relationship between Tony Stark and Peter Parker. He was a mentor to Peter Parker. The chemistry between Robert Downey Jr. and Tom Holland was fantastic. This almost felt like a standalone Iron Man film guest starring Spider-Man. But in fact, it was the other way around. Moving up to number 3 is Captain America Civil War, directed by Anthony Russo and Joe Russo. Release date May 6, 2016. Cost is $250 million. Domestic gross is $408 million. Worldwide gross $1.15 billion. Rotten Tomatoes score is 91%. This felt like an Avengers movie, and the scene alone at the airport, the fight scene there alone, was worth the price of admission. This is the first time we're seeing Tom Holland as Peter Parker, as Spider-Man. It's also the first time we're seeing Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther. I love the power struggle between Captain America and Iron Man because the United Nations wants to control the Avengers. Tony Stark is all for it. Steve Rogers is against it, so that creates a lot of dramatic tension. This is a pretty sophisticated superhero movie. Number 2 is Avengers Endgame, directed by Anthony Russo and Joe Russo. Release date April 26, 2019. Cost is $356 million. Wow. Domestic gross, $858 million. Again, wow. And the ultimate wow worldwide, it is a $2.8 billion, the highest grossing movie of all time. Rotten Tomatoes score is 94%. Avengers Endgame is the crown jewel of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It brought this 22-film series, the first 3 phases of the MCU, to an incredibly action-packed and emotionally satisfying close. Avengers Endgame is the return of the king of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but more specifically, Robert Downey Jr. gave his very, very best performance as Tony Stark, as Iron Man. He gave it his all because this was the last time he was going to be playing Iron Man. This was the way he had to go out. There's a lot of emotion in Avengers Endgame, especially during the scene when Tony Stark meets his father, Howard Stark. And moving up to number 1, the movie that started it all, Iron Man. Yes, Iron Man, directed by Jon Favreau. Release date May 2nd, 2008. Cost is $140 million. Domestic gross $319 million. Worldwide gross is $585 million. Rotten Tomatoes score 94%. Like I said, this is the one that started it all. Iron Man is a game changer, not just because it launched the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but because of what the Marvel Cinematic Universe has done in Hollywood history. There's never been anything like it. Tony Stark was a role that really played to Robert Downey Jr.'s strengths. The confidence, the charisma, the energy, the passion. You could not take your eyes off Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. The story is really smart. Stark's weapons being used against him. It's a perfect origin story. This movie made Iron Man a rock and roll superhero, and it made Robert Downey Jr. an A-list box office star. It made Jon Favreau better known as a director than as an actor, and it turned Iron Man into a top-tier A-list superhero for Marvel. And it also has the best bonus scene of any of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies when Nick Fury, played by Samuel L. Jackson, shows up after the credits telling he wants Tony Stark to join the Avengers initiative. Iron Man, maybe 12 years after it came out, but it holds up. It is still a great movie, and it is the best movie in the Iron Man film series. So what's your list? How would you rank the Iron Man films, including the other movies in the MCU? Comment below. If you have any suggestions on any film series that you would like me to rank and file, comment below or hit me up on Twitter at Movie Mantz. Please, please, please share this video with other movie fans, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Movie Mantz. Till the next episode of Rank and File, here's looking at you, kid.